Welcome to part 5 in the series on making cast nets. What I'm going to do in this part, I'm going to install the Braille lines. I'm going to set up somewhat of a bridle, and we're going to install this into the net. Now, I'm sure you noticed in the other videos that I had used green. Now, this green twine is a pre-dipped twine. It already has the net dip on it. And for me, I always like to use this for my Braille lines because to me it just seems like it's just a little easier to use. And when you put the knots in, the knots hold really, really well. Any whipping that we're going to put on there, it holds really, really well, up to the point where we're going to actually dip the net. So it holds it all together. Okay, the example net that we're using for this series is a 3-foot cast net that I'm making for my wife. And what I'm going to do is I need about, since the net's 3 feet, I'm going to need about 3 foot 10 inches on each Braille line. And because the Braille lines come up and go through the swivel, we're going to actually have to double that. So what I'm going to do initially is I'm going to measure out 3 foot 10 inches. I'm going to measure out 3 foot 10 inches, and I'm going to get my point right here. Now, once I get my point right here, I'm going to go ahead and just put a loop, and I'm going to double this out. I'm going to pull it off the spool, and I'm going to find my point here, and I'm going to just cut this here. Okay, so what I do is I put 24 Braille lines. So in doing this, I need to cut 12 pieces at this length, which is 7 foot 8 or like 92 inches. So in doing so, I have a good quality joint right here that's going to actually go through my swivel. And I'm going to do a whipping process on here on all 24 or 12, all 12 of these lines. I'm going to do a whipping process so that we get the maximum amount of usage out of this, and chances of you having to replace this in the life of the net is pretty thin by doing the whipping and stuff that I'm going to do on here. The Braille lines in the repair series, in the repair part of the series, I'm going to show you how to replace a Braille line that is actually broken close to the lead line or even halfway up the lead line. But as we are right now, we're going to install this. Now, the beauty of this is if you bought a commercially made net and it has the monofilament Braille lines in it, you don't really like it, you don't like the horn, you don't like the swivel, in using the parts in the series, you're able to go in there and replace those components on a commercially made net and make the net a little more user-friendly. For one, I really don't like using those monofilament cast nets that are commercially made. They just drive me crazy. Okay, I'm going to cut these, and I'm going to come back once I get them all cut. I need to have a total of 12 of these. The 12 that I'll be cutting will be 7 foot 8 inches long. Okay, I've doubled out the lines. I've got 12 lines here. I've got small pieces of twine here that I'm going to use in this process. I have my swivel, which I don't need that yet. I've also got a needle and a length of extra. This is probably 4 foot long. I know I'm not going to need that much, but what I'm going to do to make life easier here is I'm going to go ahead and put this on a needle the way that I normally do, and that way I don't have to fight, because the Braille lines, they're 7 foot 10 inches long, and I don't want to have to deal with that while I'm doing a whipping. So I'm going to go ahead and put this up on a needle so that it just makes life easier for me all the way around. It's just something simple to do. It's just kind of like a good process. Okay, I'm going to take my halfway point on my Braille lines. I'm going to pick this up, and whenever you do these, make sure that you have 12 of them, because when you double it out, it gives you a total of 24 Braille lines, and that's based on that cast net in the process that it's actually it's got 12 panels in it. So what we want to do is we want to put a Braille line on each one of the widener lines, and we want to put one Braille line between each one. So just to secure this however you want, and that way nothing shifts on you. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pull this apart, and we're going to put one side on one side and the other side on the other side. So we're going to start about right here. It's probably 1.25 inches or so. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this direction. Okay, if you wanted to, you could actually tie it under there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this around itself by coming here. I've got this long leg here that's going to be in the way, but what I want to do is I want to take, this is only there to hold it so nothing shifts on me. So I'm going to take and I'm going to wrap this. I'm going to wrap this around. I'm going to start to snug it up a little bit. Okay, we don't want it to slip. And that's the beauty of this pre-dipped twine. It doesn't like to slip at all. So once I get a little ways, you can see I got a little gap right there. So I'm going to take and I'm going to tighten that loose tail up, that leg there. Now I'm going to take and I'm going to continue to wrap this like so. I'm gonna wrap it pretty tight, not horrible tight, but pretty tight. Okay, once I get so far here in that, I can take this extra leg. I can take this extra leg here. I can go ahead and cut it off so it's no longer in the way. And also to this here, we can untie this. We can take it off because we've got our Braille lines secured in the position that we want them in at this point. Go ahead and take that off. And then continue your wrap. And what you want to do, if we started about 1.25 inches, if we started about 1.25 inches off center, what we want to do is we're going to want to go about 2.5 inches total length on this down to here, about 2.5 inches. Okay, as soon as I get that close to the end, I'm going to show you how to finalize it without fighting, because a lot of times when you do a whipping, you might do a loop on the outside and then run the line all the way down this way. And as you wrap it, you're going to put your on the end of your loop, because you've done this in this fashion here, and you're going to wrap it around here. And then when you get to the end, you'll put your line through here and you'll pull it through. Well, with this pre-dipped twine, to make that pull, you're going to break this line because there's so much friction inside there that you can't really do that. So what I'll do is I'm going to wrap this all the way to the end, and when I'm about 3 wraps away, I'm going to go ahead and come back and show you how to finalize that whipping. Okay, here I've almost finished the whipping, and what I'm going to it's almost 2.5 inches. It's a little less than 2.25 inches. So I'm going to make about 3, maybe 4 rounds here. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to actually lay this inside here, because I'm going to use that to pull it back through itself. Okay, just remember, you want to be real firm on your wraps. You don't want to be overly tight, because you're gonna have to pull this through. And then also too, you know, when you whip this, when you dip it, it'll be good to go. Okay, so I've gone 3 wraps. This will make a final of a three wraps there. I'm gonna pull this through like so. I'm gonna go ahead and cut this about 1 inch or so. Then I'm gonna take and I'm gonna grab this and I'm going to pull this Now I want to give myself just a little bit of slack. So this, I'm using number 4 twine. It's just scrap twine. Give myself a little bit of slack, and I'm going to pull this through here. Don't let that slip off, because if it does, and the beauty of this is if you do have it slip off or whatever, you just have a few wraps that you have to do to get that to cooperate. So we're going to pull this through. It's kind of tough because the twine is pre-dipped. So we're going to pull this. Go ahead and pull that through like so. And what we're going to do is we're going to pull this. We're going to make sure everything's nice and snug, because what we're going to do is we're going to actually bend this over once we put the swivel on here, and we're going to put another whipping on there coming up this way, so that it gives us this maximum strength and wearability on the top. So we've got that done. So don't cut the line below it, but just cut the line as close as you can get it without cutting the other line. Okay, now what we can do is we can put our swivel on here. Put your swivel on here. And now what we'll do is we'll go ahead and pull both lines on one side. We can bring these together, and we can put a whipping right here. Okay, so it gives you a very professional, plus the whole point in doing this is actually because it gives you wearability on your swivel. Your swivel is going to do a lot of movement and pulling and stuff like that, and it increases the strength of the braille lines at the very top. So we'll start our whipping here. I'm going to have to get out another piece of twine. I didn't get the twine out. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I cut another piece of twine. The other roll, I'm out of the other roll, this different color green. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. I'm going to put this on a needle to make life easier on me. Now, because it's on the end, you don't need to do all this. I just prefer to do it. Okay, so I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put that loop, as I had described before. I'm going to put that loop to where it's just inside here. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to actually come down 3/4 of an inch. And I'm going to start this, okay? You notice I got everything pretty loose because I need to square it all up, get it all clean. I want this just about in the middle. So, we're going to wrap this. We're going to make sure that these are pretty even. Start wrapping this. Okay, I'm not doing it real tight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start tightening it up now to where it's tighter. And just remember, you're going to have a lot of pressure in this as you're doing it, because this is pre-dipped twine, so it's slightly sticky as compared to just bonded twine. So we're going to wrap this till we get up to the bottom of that original whipping. Okay. We're going to come up here a little bit off, but it's all right. We're all good. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and try to get this thing to cooperate here. I'm going to get the last one directly underneath there with a little bit of pressure. I'm going to go ahead and pull on that pretty good. Come around over here. I'm going to go ahead and push this through. Okay, I'm going to grab this, make sure that I'm able to move it. It's able to move. Okay, so I'm gonna snug this down to right there. Push that in there. Okay, now what I want to do, you got to use a lot of caution here because you don't want to pull your whipping loose. So we're going to cut this so far. Now, right now, the loop that we're using is about right there. So what I want to do is I want to pull it to about right there, and I don't want to pull any further So I'm going to try to get some leverage here and pull this down, and you see it moving, okay, right there. I'm going to stop right there. Matter of fact, I went a little too far. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these pliers, and I'm going to pull that back some by rolling it, okay. So now I've got it about close to the middle, I would say. I'm going to go ahead and cut that off. And I'm going to go ahead and cut this off. Now what you have is a extremely professional looking process going on here. Okay, one thing that I didn't do, I actually forgot to do it, is you can go over here and you can put a small piece of twine around 12 so that you're actually keeping your division on your process. You can put a piece of twine around there and a piece of twine around here. And what it does is it enables you to give an even balance as it's coming out of here and going down to the lead line. So I normally do that, but because I'm shooting video, I just completely forgot. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to insert this into the top of the cast net through the thimble, and we're going to look up inside the net so that you can see what you're going to see. And then it's going to be pretty difficult for me to shoot the video because of the way that I do it. I have the net hanging up by the thimble, and this is actually just wired to the thimble so it doesn't move, because I want it to sit at a specific location so that all the Braille lines, you're not moving everything around as you're doing it, because you've got this actually secured to the thimble so that it won't move. And it's pretty simple. You just run a piece of twine through the webbing under the thimble and run it up through here, and then bring it over and tie it so that it holds its position, and you don't have some Braille lines that have tension on them and some Braille lines that don't have tension on them. And that's what we're going to attempt to achieve here. Okay, I brought over the net, and this is the end of the Braille lines. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and I'm going to put a small whipping here so that I can insert it in there without losing a lot of my lines by them going everywhere they want to go. It doesn't take much. You can just put you a square knot in here, like so. Put you a clean square knot right there, so that it holds the Braille lines together as we insert them in there. So we're going to take our net and we're going to actually insert this into the net. We're going to take and we're going to pull up, reach up underneath the lead line, and we're going to get a hold of this. I know I probably burn more time than I really should when I'm doing this for you guys. Okay, so I've got this here, and I'm going to pull this line off that I just tied on here to get the Braille lines all the way through here, because I'm going to use that same piece of twine. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I've got this sitting here. What I want to do is I want to go through the webbing about so that it cuts it in half, not cut it, but actually crosses about halfway across the thimble. Pull the twine through, and what I want to do, I'm going to go ahead and put it through here, because that's the way I want to hang it. I'm going to hang it this way, but I want to hold this down in here. Now understand that when your net is just hanging, it's going to be hanging on stretched mesh. Okay, so when the cast net opens up, the distance between the lead line and the thimble at that point is going to become shorter. So if you bring your Braille lines, you don't want to put them tight, just a little bit of slack in those Braille lines, so that when you do throw it, it's going to open up and it's going to give you more slack in those braille lines. Okay, so they don't have to be to where this is hanging out here on stretch mesh when you're actually hanging it on the wall somewhere. It doesn't need to be, you know, up so high. You can pull it down to where your top whipping for the arch there actually touches. Don't press it down in, but just touches the thimble. But anyway, this is the way I normally do it. So that this is sitting here, and then when you suspend this, your thimble is pretty square with the floor. Anyway, so we're gonna take, and as you notice, this is how much extra play we have in here. So what that does is that you can look at the shortest ones here. It's going to give me enough room to be able to tie the knot that I need to use. And on this net, I'm going to use a double overhand on the line. I'm going to go ahead and hang this and move everything over, and we're going to go ahead and do the next phase. Okay, I've repositioned the net. I moved it to a new location, and lighting may be a little different, but it's still going to work out. What I've done is I've taken and I have marked all these braille lines with a little black mark. And that little black mark is going to be my indicator as to where I want my knot to be whenever I'm attaching it to the lead line. Now, this is kind of difficult, the way that I've got to go about reaching up inside this net. What I've done is I went ahead and pulled 3 of them out. And here you can see the 3. This is on a widener, this is between the widener, and this is on a widener. Whenever we get ready to tie the net, I'm going to go through exactly how to tie the knot on my mock-up, and then we'll come over to this net and we'll do it on this net. Okay, so what I'm going to do is we're going to go inside this net, and I'm going to show you what you're going to see when you go up inside there so that you can pull your braille lines down and be able to see exactly how you should be doing this. So let's go up inside this net. Okay, as you can see here the 3 that I've already pulled over. You can see your next one in here in line that may be a good choice to pull is right here. And what you're trying to attempt to do is actually not twist them up in here. You don't want them all twisted here. You want to pull them out in an order and keep them nice and straight. And then you want to come down. The last one I put in through a widener here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go between the wideners here, and I'm going to put another one, and I'm just going to actually just push it straight through the webbing so I can get a hold of it and pull it out. And when I pull this out, I've got it on the outside of the net. And what it does is it helps me to not lose its position as I'm tying them. It makes it so much easier. Let's do one more, and then I'll go ahead and pull the rest through, and we'll go ahead and start the process of actually putting them on the lead line. Okay, I'm gonna pull this down. I'm gonna find my next wideners here. I'm gonna push this through my wideners. See, if you have 2 hands doing this process, it's real simple, it's real fast. But because I'm having to hold the camera, it prevents it from being real fast and real easy for me. But as you can see, we've got 5 of them outside now, and they're all in the position to which they're gonna actually fall down here on the lead line. So going over here, we have the widener here. We have the widener right here. So we're going to actually secure that line right here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pull all the rest of the lines. We've got a total of 24 lines, and I've only pulled 5 through. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get that done. And then I'm going to go to the mock-up, and I'm going to show you what type of knot we're going to use and how we're going to actually secure it to the lead line. Then I'll come over here and I'll show you on the net itself me doing one of those. Okay, I'm going to show you on this cord how I'm going to tie the knot. And this marker is the same on the green, and we want it somewhere on the lead line whenever we complete the knot. But the way that we're going to tie the knot, I'm going to do it with this cord so that you can see it unobstructed. Your lead line would normally be here. This would be wrapped around your lead line. What you're going to do is wrap it around the lead line this way. You can go the other way as well, as long as you're understanding that when you're wrapping this, it needs to go back toward the lead line. Wrap it here, make 2 rounds. See where it crosses there, push it through that loop. Now, as you start to tighten this down, pull on this one right here, this one, so that you're actually pulling it down so that you can position this somewhere on the lead line so that all of the braille lines are uniform. So you're going to pull this down and you're going to work it down close to that black mark, and you're going to tighten it up. And then once you've tightened that up, you're going to push this down on against your lead line. So basically, we've got a cinch type knot situation here going around the lead line, and it'll grab and hold on. Now, whenever you lay that on the lead line, you can see how the net pulls on the lead line as the lead line is weighting the net. So you want your knot to be on the top here. You don't want your knot to be anywhere else, because when you cinch it down, it's going to stay where you cinch it down, especially if you're going to dip it directly after your installing of these braille lines. So this is the knot we're going to use. Now, I'm going to show you how it's done on the lead line. Okay, as you just saw, we tied the knot. Now, I'm emulating here the way that it is set up in your net right now. When you're doing the net, you're going to do the net while it's hanging up, not laying down. I've got it laying down so that you can easily see what we're trying to do here. So we push the braille line through the webbing. So what we want to do is it's holding that position so we don't lose its position. We know where it's at in its order. So we're going to pull this off this way. We're going to bring it down, and right here, between this hanging right here, I'm going to push it out. I'm going to bring it around. Okay, that black marker can be anywhere on this lead line. It's perfectly fine. So to give myself plenty of room to do this knot, I'm going to pull this like this. It's actually a hitch. So let me wrap it here. Wrap it here. If you do it the same way every time, then you're not going to get confused in the knot. So if you wrap it away from yourself to start, go ahead and put 2 wraps and do every one of them away from yourself as you tie them. And it'll make it so much easier, and there'll be no confusion as you move along. We're going to put that through both loops. Okay. So we're going to tighten this down to where that black marker is going to end up somewhere on that lead line. Okay. Can be right there. Okay, so we're going to tighten this up. As you can see, it's going to cinch right against that lead line. Pull it tight, take it like so, and you're going to cinch it up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to align it with the way the hangings are here as I cinch this up. And I'm going to pull it real snug, really, really snug. Now, I'm going to go on and I'm going to do the rest of them. Now, once I do this, I'm going to come back around once I'm completely satisfied with what I've done. And I'm going to cut this a small amount above this knot. This knot right here is actually used, we use it in rope rescue as a safety knot for our primary knots that we're using in our system. We use this knot, which is a double overhand safety, in order to do that. And in this case, I've been using this knot for years on my cast nets, and you don't have a problem with it hanging up in your webbing because you've got too much here. Now, you don't want to melt this, because if you melt it, you're going to make a small hard spike right here, and that spike will be able to hang up on your webbing, and you don't really want that. So just cut it, and it's going to fray just a little bit, not very much. If you noticed on the miniature net, that's the way that it was done as well. And I do it the same way on all my nets. Now that we've done it here, we would go ahead and finish out what we're doing, and then we'd come back and we'd make this trim right here. Once that's done, then we would go ahead and dip our net. Let's go to the 3-foot net and let's do one. Okay, I've moved the net and I've put it over here so you can see it, and it's hanging up. You can see how I got all the Braille lines pulled through. And what that enables me to do is separate everything out. I'm going to start right here on one of my wideners. I'm going to reach up inside the net. I'm going to grab the Braille line that is appropriate to this space, to this widener. I'm going to roll this over like so. I'm going to take the line, and I can't put it directly on there, so I'm going to just put it slightly to the side. I'm going to put it through here like so. And there's my black mark. Now, if this is not enough space for you to be able to tie the knot that we're talking about doing, which is a double overhand or half of a double fisherman's, then go ahead and pull out a bunch of the line and get on the Braille line here like so. And we're going to move all this stuff out of the way. Give yourself plenty of room to tie this, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold that black knot there, or the black mark there. I'm going to wrap away from myself, as I said before. I'm going to go around my second time, and I'm going to pull this through both of those loops. My black mark is right there. I hope you can see it. So I'm going to work this down by rolling it. I'm going to roll it away from me because that's the way I tied it. My black mark is right there. So I want to roll this around till I get it on my black mark. And I want to keep the knot so that the knot is still doing its job the way that it's designed to be tied. I'm sure you can see that. Okay, so we got our black mark right here. We're going to tighten this up. I'm going to take and I'm going to work it back and forth till I get it pretty tight. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my lead line, and I can see the pull on my lead line is this direction. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to cinch this directly to that lead line like so. Tighten it and pull it down snug. Now that one's done. Okay, once I get them all done, I'll come back, I'll look at the net, make sure everything is exactly the way I want it, and then I'll trim it off to where it's about 1/8 of an inch, maybe a hair more, 3/16 away from the primary knot, and I'll trim that extra leg off there. Okay, we're going to go to the next one, which is halfway between two spacers. Two wideners here. So what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and skip that position, and I'm going to go to the next widener. So I'm going to take the next Braille line, push it off to the side. I'm going to reach up inside here. I'm going to verify that my wideners go all the way up to where my Braille line comes through the net. I'm going to reach up here and grab that particular one. I'm going to pull it down. I'm going to roll my net over. There's my widener. Doesn't matter if I'm on this side of the widener or on that side of the widener. I'm going to take, yuck, that's starting to fray. I'm going to push this through here. That fraying just makes things a little more difficult if it becomes a problem. There's my mark right there. So I'm going to take, and I'm going to give myself plenty of room to be able to tie this on here. I'm going to loop away from myself. I'm going to make my second loop. I'm going to come back around. I'm going to fix these up. I'm going to push this through. And then I'm going to start rolling it away from me so that it's going to tighten up and come out real close to that Sharpie mark, that black Sharpie mark. I need it to be right there. Somehow or another, yeah, it's good. It's just a long ways from it. This is a different piece of, this is a little different piece of material. Okay, I must not have picked up the other loop. So now when you see yourself, you're not quite getting it right. It's not just you. Anybody can do it. Go ahead and take it back apart. Okay. What I want to do is to give myself plenty of space. I'm trying to keep it on frame of camera too. Okay, so I'm going to go around here, make my second loop, and I see where I made my mistake in the knot. I'm going to push it through. I'm going to start bringing it down on that black mark. What that's going to do is give us that little bit of slack in there. Okay, so now it's all laying the way that we want it to lay. We're going to go ahead and pull it tight, and we're going to go ahead and check the direction of our lead line. How is it hung? Okay, I need it to be right there. I'm going to push this up, snug it up. Okay, so that's two. They're in place right there. The other one is right here. It's a better twine. It's just easier to work with. So that's how you attach your Braille lines. And as you know, we skipped that one. So what I want to do is I'm going to match these up. I'm going to grab it right here, so I know this is where the next one goes. I'm going to reach up in the net, pull that one out. I'm going to push it through. I'm going to bring my black marker up, and I'm going to follow through with the same process again. Give myself plenty of room to work. Put my first loop, put my second loop, push it through both loops, and remember, you're wrapping toward the lead line. You're not wrapping away from the lead line, you're wrapping toward the lead line, and that's where most people make their mistake with this knot, is they want to wrap it out this way, and then when they tighten it down, it doesn't look right. Well, it's not going to work right, because this knot is just like like when you're tying your shoes, that when you put your finger on that little cross where you're tying your shoes, this piece of twine actually pushes down on the same spot that you would push down when you're tying your shoes. So what you've done there is you've actually put a knot in there that's making itself work. Okay, so once you're satisfied with it, find the direction of your lead line, which way is it pulling, and go ahead and push it up. And then snug it up. Okay, so now we have three. We've done three. So this one's done, this one's done, and this one's done. And we can go on and finish out the net.